Kia ora koutou, welcome to Inside Netball. It's our 2023 Netball World Cup special. The Australian Diamonds have won the 2023 edition. They thrashed England by 16 in the gold medal match. But we're more here to talk about the Silver Ferns. I've got Dean Wilson and Anna Harrison with me. Now, the Silver Ferns, unfortunately, their worst ever finish at a Netball World Cup, losing the bronze medal match to Jamaica by 7. Let's just start with some initial thoughts. Just download all your thoughts for me right now.
Oh, my initial thoughts was ouch, 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 ouch. You know, I just did not see this coming. This, you know, when we had our last Inside Netball chat, we were thinking, well, I didn't even put England in the top 3 and they made it through to the final. But in saying that, no one predicted that we were going to lose Grace Weke so early in the competition, and there's no taking away from the fact that that had a massive impact, Anna.
Yeah, the loss of her, and then we just didn't find our flow on attack without her. It changed the way that we had been playing substantially, and yeah, it should have showed in that attacking.
Since you've brought up Grace Weke from the get-go, let's get into that topic. A patella tendon injury early in the tournament. In fact, playing against Singapore. I know a lot of the public are thinking, why was she playing against Singapore? But is it the kind of injury, you're a physio, Scar,
yeah,
you know, you've studied. Is it the kind of injury that was probably going to happen regardless throughout the tournament?
Well, it's an interesting thing about MRIs and athletes is that if you took one, if you could go back in time and take one before the injury, who knows how much wear and tear was already there, and then you heard it and you've got pain and you investigate it. So hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully it heals quickly or the pain subsides and she can be back on court soon. But massive call to not play her, but really good that the longevity of our star player is thought of, not pushing through it and risk doing some serious damage.
Yeah. But straight away, it just changed the whole dynamics, right? You took out what our key game plan was, and that was a tall shooter standing in the back. You have that wonderful target, that get out of jail free card at times when you're like, where am I going to throw it? I'll throw it up to Grace. And that just got stripped away after that Singapore match. And what did it mean? It meant we had to go to a plan B that became our plan A. But there was so much work that had to go into even getting a ball to go. And I think that ended up having a huge influence on the fact that we struggled in the fourth quarter. We were emptying our tanks so early in a game because these girls are fit. I do not question their fitness by any means. They are fit, but they were having to work so hard that by the time you reach that fourth quarter, because of the change in game plan that was forced upon us, it really made it difficult.
Yeah, we talked a lot in the sort of build-ups in our analysis during the World Cup about the fourth quarter, particularly for the Silver Ferns. And Scar, you know, we're trying to figure out what it was. We talked about the backpack style that we don't really see so much in the ANZ, something that you want to see maybe implemented more. I mean, what's your solution there? And backpack style, it's just, you know, how the Australians, pretty much how the Australians play.
It totally changes the timing of the catch of the attacker and the turn and the release, and it is different. And like in New Zealand, in training we have, let's play scum. So for like 5 or a quarter, we, as the D, need to try and like grab and pull and make it really challenging. But it's not the same, right? Because we only do that for sections in the training, whereas when we come up against Australian teams, the closest we get to that backpack is Pulse. Pulse play very tight, they hassle, and they're the team that you probably be like, well, let's play them because they're going to give you a taste of what that international level's like. And maybe there's something there in terms of bring back the Trans-Tasman because that would be nice. I mean, I always enjoyed that when we played them. It was a really different style, and it meant when you met them in international level, there wasn't any kind of like, oh, I haven't done, like, it's like, I know these players, like you're really familiar with it and you've played it. So it kind of removes this sort of mental aspect, which would have, that whole fourth quarter, being able to maintain that's a mental thing. And I agree with you fitness-wise. I mean, Knowles has got the standard really high in the fitness, but it is that grind and that ability to execute.
It's that grind again.
The grind word.
I don't want to hear the grind word again after this campaign. Oh my goodness.
I guess taking a step back then though, because our get out of jail free card, like you were just saying, Adine, was having Grace Weke in those moments where you weren't having to kind of grind it out so much. And so if we look back to the build-up and some of the early games, you know, I think we were seeing Maya Wilson play out at goal attack and Tapaya Selby-Rickett play at goal shoot when Grace Mwiki was still around. And then when she wasn't, we never saw that combination again. So what was up with some of that early positional decision-making from Dame Knowles?
I don't know. I was very confused, to be honest. And I think it's been an interesting one for Dame Knowles because, you know, there's always been the same, and Dame Knowles we trust. And we have trusted Dame Knowles. But I think we do have to, and there'll be a review of the whole thing, you do have to kind of analyse some of the decisions that the coaches have made at times. Should there have been changes? Was there other times that they shouldn't have thrown lots of people on? So, look, it's a hard one because you don't want to be overly critical because you know that, you know, for that example in the Jamaican game, things were so close. So do you make a change when things are so close? Because it's easy to say afterwards if it didn't work. But I do think it didn't feel as though it was quite as, it felt a little bit more frantic. I felt that's when they were making changes, felt a bit more frantic to me. Whereas in the past, I felt like when Silver Fern coaches made changes, it was like, this is what we're doing, this is the reason they're happening.
Well, I don't know, but like in the past, the Silver Ferns have had quite a, well, when I first started, it was
they didn't make
starting
changes.
7 and no changes
But
there.
that's an era change too, right? Sorry, not saying that you're old, but you know. But back in my day, you made no changes. So it slowly got more and more.
Yeah, but I think what part is with Nolene as well is that we've seen her make so many changes in over the last years. We kind of come to expect it. And then it came to those crunch games and no changes were happening. And I think you alluded to it in that Australian game is they made tactical changes that they weren't desperate. No lead had broken out or anything. It was tactical. You could see that they didn't want something to happen. And that's the difference. It feels like they are strategic. We're like, oh, let's try that.
But
now.
So is that a reflection of the rules in the Suncorp Super Netball where they play with rolling subs? And so even the players who are coming on go in with a mental headspace. They've done this before. You know, they know that they have to get in there, do their job. They might come off straight away. There's no big kind of, got to fake an injury. Oh no, why am I coming off? You know?
Yeah, I think that definitely would go to it. And
I think there's lots of questions around the Suncorp League, right? Because why are these other countries got so much better? England have never played in a World Cup final. They just got a silver medal. How many of their players play in Suncorp? Their standout players is 7. I think it is 7. You know, they have got Cardwell. She is playing some beautiful netball, a little bit quiet in that final, but she just come off playing a overtime final in Australia, and to imagine the experience she's gained from that. When you look at Jamaica as well, Jamaica probably underperformed for me actually. I thought Jamaica would have been in the final. My idea was Jamaica, New Zealand, didn't quite happen. But look, they have got some outstanding players. Again, they've got a lot more composure because they're playing in a competition where they are put under pressure consistently. So, you know, you do have to start wondering when and you know, do you completely combine again, or do you again try to get it so, you know, the top 3 New Zealand teams play Australia? All of these questions will be thrown up again, I think, after we've seen the, you know, now we're number 4. We're number 4 in the world.
And we could sit here and debate this kind of state of our national competition. It comes up a lot on Inside Netball. You mentioned Jamaica. I know you said the word underperforming, but if you think about it, they lost the semi-final to Australia by 3, and it was kind of only in the dying moments. They could have very easily been in that grand final. They beat us twice quite convincingly, so they're definitely a team on the rise. I want to talk about Silver Fern's game plan, because I felt like we talked a lot during the World Cup about the seal and present, and I remember having Jodie Brown on the couch and she was like, where's the bloody dodging? Where's the dodging? So it was just all about the seal and present, and at times the zero phase, both on attack and defence. Was it just a matter of not having a plan B?
Well, and the zero phase actually, I think, worked against us often. How many attacking contacts? You think how many attacking contacts? So Jodie actually explains zero phase really well. So zero phase is you want to find the player and then start your move off them, which is quite a different mentality when you know, that wasn't something I would try to do every time as a wing attack, was go and find my player and then do my move. Often you would dodge and head away or whatever it might be. I can hardly remember actually what I used to do, to be honest. I think I just ran. But, but you know, But obviously, something about that, and again, that was different umpires. We had different umpires from around the world, and were they interpreting our seal and present different? Because when we were coming up and holding on players, we were getting called for the contact. You could argue there was nothing wrong with it other than the fact that we then pushed off with our arm, and if you took that push off away, it would have been fine. But again, it's a different style of netball.
Yeah, I think it's great to have up your sleeve, the steal and present, because again, over the time since when we started, players are much more physical and athletic, and they can stay with you for longer, so that you can't run anymore because everyone can stay with you. So there is an element of, we definitely need that. I wonder if
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here
we go. Get comfortable.
ready, yeah.
I wonder if we get really focused on structures and what we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to seal here so that she pulls here, and we, as players...
You mean in a bad way? We get over-focused?
Yeah, so as
spontaneity.
players, as our young players, it starts in school, right? People talking about box and this and this and this, and then players are getting so focused on falling into the structure or doing the structure that they're not reading the game. Yeah. They're not seeing the play. They're not seeing that, oh, wait a minute, I don't need to hold here because the ball's right here and I can just split. Like in D as well, oh, I don't need to drop into the box because nobody's coming, so I'm going to be 3 foot. I think that I think that we're losing our players' ability to just read the game.
Right.
Like, have intent on attack or D, but not like you have to fall into this. Like, change the mentality.
Is that why people love Tuiava? And I hate to bring that up,
Yes.
you know, but I think that's what
absolutely
Tuiava brings. She goes with it. She's like, oh, there's a space over there.
Yeah.
Whoop, I'm going to whip over there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hit that ball in over there.
That's
So
exactly
she brings some spontaneity. She brings a bit of excitement. And again, it's easy, you know, to say after the fact, but you know, that's the sort of player that comes out of structure. That brings something
the
different.
flair that people talk about,
Yeah.
the flair that she has, it's because she sees what she sees and she plays it.
Yeah, on that note though, we talked extensively on our Inside Netball special when the World Cup squad was named about how shocked we were that Peta Tuiava wasn't there. And then Grace Nweke gets injured very early on in the tournament. Does that kind of not prove a point as such, but would you use Peta Tuiava from that moment out? Because we haven't really seen her feed anyone else. It's always the Grace and Peta show. I don't know.
You don't, I can't. It's really hard to answer that because they bring everything. Also, there's the piece of the puzzle is we're not in training, so we don't know how well they combine. And it might sound really good on paper to have, you know, Peta with Maddie Gordon at centre, but we don't, you know, sometimes people just don't gel on the court. And we can't see that, so I can't answer that.
We don't know that. That's what you're saying. We can't answer that. Hindsight's a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
This has all felt a little bit doom and gloomy. I know it's not nice. And obviously it was our worst World Cup finish. But let's switch tack and talk about defence, where there was some really shining lights.
It was.
Phoenix Kartika, I think, had a fantastic tournament. I don't think many people expected her to overtake Karen Berger or Jane Watson for a starting position in that goal circle, Adine.
Yeah, look, I think she did. I think their whole defensive end did some great stuff. And when we looked at the numbers, you know, we try not to focus too much on stats, but I think they'll be quite happy to look at their own stats because they got gains. And we heard Dave Knowles and Deb talk right throughout the tournament that we're getting enough ball. We've got the opportunity, but we need to score off it. And so I think Fee did a great job. I was intrigued by the Kelly Jury experiment out at wing defence. Loved the theory of it, loved that they gave it a go against Jamaica, but I'm also absolutely rapt for Kelly that she got to go back into that goal keep position in a couple of games and show what she can really do. Because when she was at wing D, she was trying to lift balls. She wasn't going to be going out there and getting intercepts, but when she went back into that goal keep, she's been playing some beautiful netball and I'm really rapt for her. But it did mean that we didn't see a lot of Jane Watson.
Which was just bizarre.
Which is a surprise, Anna.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me at the start of the tournament, I would have thought Jane would have been one to bring on in the big games with the experience and the voice that she has in the back. She confuses space, which when you're playing those sort of Australian teams that they like that body on to show the angles, that playing off the body and the footwork and the movement of the arms and stuff. But yeah, Kelly, again, full credit to play out in that unfamiliar wing defence and then slot back into that keeper to be able to come out, get intercepts and connect with her Goldie. I thought her and coming out and Karika coming in, it just looked nice. It looked nice, but that work out the front helped that as well. And again, that's probably the point that the wing defence, if they're doing their job, they create that ball, which maybe she wasn't making as much ball in the front for our keepers.
I mean, Kelly was out at wing D. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. With the Jane Watson thing, we saw her come on with 2 minutes to go in that English semi-final. And if you think about back to Liverpool, I think we all talked about Jane Watson getting like 5 gains in the first quarter over England and was a huge part of them winning that semi-final 4 years ago. Why was she not brought on earlier? There's something we have to question Dame Knowles about again.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you actually saw her sitting, she was squatting down in front of the coaches. Like they were going to bring her on, but they were almost like holding her going, yes, no, yes.
All while the clock was ticking, you've got 2 minutes.
And that's why I think I found interesting about this campaign, and we sort of heard Knowles allude to it another time when she was asked why weren't changes made. And she said, oh, well, we almost went to do it and then something happened. And so you almost felt like at times they thought about it, but they held back. And I don't know whether they didn't go with their instinct when they have gone with their instinct. I don't know. We weren't in the camp, but just looking from outside, they just, again, I go back to they didn't seem as assured about when they made changes as I feel like they have been in the past. But again, it makes it very, very hard when what you thought was going to be your spine for your tournament, having Grace in the back, having Gina at wing attack, just didn't quite pan out.
Yeah, the spine broke down a little bit after that Grace Wicke injury. We didn't see Gina Crampton at all in that Jamaican game, which was, at the time felt really strange. Speaking of Gina Crampton, we know she's taking a bit of time out now. Whether she comes back to netball, we're not entirely sure. She's left the door, a little bit ajar. It's not closed, it's not open. Any other possible retirements? I mean, there's quite a few players. Phoenix Karaka, 3rd World Cup. Jane Watson with a baby. Meals with 2.
Yeah,
could we see a few mass exodus
for a while? Yeah. I mean, this is the time. Well, it's any time. It's hard to pull pin, but after a campaign like this, it sort of is often the time that you're
It'd be so hard because they
forth. Like finishing on that, that will. If some people were thinking that was it for them, there might be maybe I should do a little bit more just to finish on a better note.
Well, if they're thinking it is, I think if I was them, because they're already super fit, and it's September, we've got Tiny Jamison against England, who just got a silver medal. I think I'd be like, well, I'm just going to hold out a little bit longer and maybe stay on for that and then the Constellation Cup, because I think that's what Dame Knowles has confirmed to us, wasn't it? She's staying on to the end of the year. So I wonder, normally, yes, it would be you step out after a World Cup because you work in those 4-year campaigns. But I wonder, because of the such tight nature of their next 2 campaigns, you might just go, well, I might just stay on because I don't want to finish on, because it was a draw and 3 losses in a row.
No.
Ouch! So, and to have another go at England here in New Zealand, maybe that will just stretch out the career of a few of those people, but there's certainly no doubt that a number of them will be thinking, is it time?
Yeah.
And on that, the Constellation Cup shortly after. 2 games here against Australia, 2 over there. This is the 2nd pinnacle event in a row that the Silver Ferns have not faced Australia. How bizarre is that?
Weird,
It's so weird.
And as players as well, you want to play them just to win, but to get a feel of where you're at as well.
There's nothing like playing Australia.
Yeah, the intensity, and they're just number 1 so often. It's nice to get the gauge on them, and so it is really strange.
Well, it was strange that we didn't end up hitting them in the semi, because when we lost to Jamaica, we thought, oh no, hold on, did we lose to Jamaica? We lost to Jamaica. I'm trying to remember who we lost to, and then thinking, oh, well, we're going to definitely cross with Australia because Australia will finish number 1.
Yep.
But then Australia lost to England.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the best thing that's come out of this tournament.
The people won games that they shouldn't have.
We ended up meeting whoever
the
rest of the world.
Yeah,
right?
once upon a time, the same people always won and made it through to the final.
Okay,
Well, I did quite like that because that was us. But, it was New Zealand and Australia. But it is making it interesting now that England are pulling off different wins. Jamaica are pulling off different wins. South Africa almost pulled off a win, and Uganda
came 5th. They beat South Africa in the playoff for 5th.
Yeah, and Tonga came
8th in that playoff with Malawi. Tonga were great to watch. Just to kind of finish off, I guess, on a more positive note, some of the young ones that we had out on court, Maddie Gordon, Tiana Maturo, Grace Wicke will be around for quite a while, Kate Heffernan. Yeah. How crucial has this experience been for those kind of players?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, when I first made it, we set the standard pretty high and won a World Cup, and I didn't want one again. And so I don't know if I was going to
Gonna go the other way then.
If I was going to choose my first year in the World Cup, lose, and then win some more from there, I think I'd go that way more than one and never again.
Yeah, they'll learn an absolute heap. And I remember Kitty Wills saying, well, they didn't quite pan out for the Stars this year. You know, you've got to lose a final to win a final. And I think, you know, yeah, no, it didn't quite work out a bit. But I think the saying is right, because you do learn so much. And when I think back to 2003, when we did win, you know, that group of people before then had so many losses, and the desire and the passion to work harder, to train harder, to go outside the box and do something different, you know, it really lights something inside you. And so I think the hurt that the girls are feeling now, that will, as much as I wish they didn't have to feel it, I think that will really ensure they never, ever, ever want to feel this again.
Oh, well, let's bring on 2027, the next World Cup. Of course, it's very easy for us to sit here on the couch and give our thoughts on what we saw. It'd be nice now to head over to Cape Town, where Courtney Tidy and Anna Stanley have been throughout the duration of the World Cup. Here are their thoughts.
Well, it may not have been the Silver Ferns World Cup, but it's the very first time that one was hosted here on African soil. And boy, Courtney, Cape Town certainly put it on. I think they probably had a volunteer for nearly every little thing. Even when I'd go up the lift every day to the second floor to the media room, there was someone to push the button there. So they've certainly had plenty of volunteers. But when it comes to the netball, Courtney, the Ferns didn't quite have it.
No, they didn't. It was real unfortunate, and I hate to say it, but how much of a loss was Greece and Wicker. You can't build, I guess, your whole game plan around one specific player, but it looks like we did. I just think we weren't good enough on attack throughout this World Cup. I think it started with our draw with South Africa. We just weren't finding each other out there. We were disconnected. I don't even think we were playing with width what we needed. It just didn't look good. And then for me personally, we had shooters who weren't turning and shooting. They just didn't look settled down there.
Yeah, I talked to Te Hara Keenan at the end of one match, and she said Waimarama Tamanu summed it up nicely. She said the Silver Ferns are playing bumper cart netball on attack. So they go up, they bump their defender, and then they go again. And it's just bump, bump, bump the whole way down the court. So hard to really get that momentum and flow. So that for me has been the really disappointing takeaway from this Silver Ferns campaign, is that I don't think we've seen the best of them. And as you say, Grace was a massive loss, and you can't deny the strength that she had at the back. It changed their whole game plan. Substitutions at times were a little bit questionable from Knowles, but that's the pressure of a Netball World Cup. But if we move back down, Jamaica, a lot of people thought they were going to be at the top. They beat the Ferns today for that bronze medal.
Well, they did, and I thought they were really great. I just think for Jamaica, they didn't have the legs across the tournament. I think yesterday, to get into the gold medal match, they looked tired. I think the Aussie played it really well, really smart. They kept it low. We barely saw Shamira Sterling, but then when they came up against the Ferns, you know, that's what she loved. And once the defenders started getting ball for Jamaica, that's when they started to get on their run. Spoke to Shamira Sterling. She said, we knew we were going to win this one. We weren't letting it go. Everyone is sad. I think that Jamaica weren't there in the final match, but I think they can be proud of everything that they did.
And speaking of the Sunshine Girls, if ever I had a fangirl moment, for me, this World Cup, it has been Jodie Ann Ward.
Same.
Holy smokes, she is incredible. When I'm courtside watching her, tracking her, she is an athlete. She goes for ball, she doesn't get it, she recovers just as quick. So I think she'll be one to watch. She is world class. There's been so much talk about Sterling. I think Jodie Ann's just sort of flowing under the radar, but boy, this World Cup, she really came to the party, and she was outstanding in that game today. England, Aussie, boy, how many times have we seen Aussie romp around on that court, Courtney, with a gold medal? Too many times.
Too many times. And England, they were up for this one, and they beat Australia just 2 days ago, and I think they believe that they could do it. I like the tactical changes that they made against Australia in their previous match, and I just think that they were running out of legs, especially in that third quarter. They really went down. I think England, I mean, they can be proud of everything that they did, but for me, they were letting balls go in straight into Courtney Bruce's hands pretty much by the end of it. Australia were just too strong. But yeah, for me, England, they just weren't quite up to par today.
In Australia, they make those changes. You know, Wood started at goal attack. She was amazing. She goes and sits on the bench. Austin comes in and gets player of the day, I think, along with Courtney Bruce, I think, was a close second. So you just get to see the depth that this Australian Diamond side have. And, you know, that is the reason why they are ranked #1 in the world. For me, England, just didn't quite have it. I think they are a team that really are buoyed by confidence, and when in that third quarter when the Aussie Diamonds had that good lead, you could just see them drop a little bit. But you'd have to say the Diamonds deserve that gold.
Well, they do, and they played like it. And I said to Courtney Bruce, what is it about the Australian style? You just grind and grind. And she said, that's what we do. It's in their DNA. And you only have to look at their captain, Leslie Watson, and all the matches that she plays. She doesn't really stand out, but she doesn't throw ball away. And she will just work and work and work for her side. And I think you can see it out there. I love the injection of Sophie Garvin. I thought she came on well. She's so strong under that post, but you're right, Annie, they take one player off and they replace it. You take Joe Weston off, Sarah Clow comes on, does the job for them.
And if you look at the Silver Ferns, I guess, we've heard about it all week, that there is a team of 12, and players for me that stood out today in that bronze medal match. Kate Heffernan going back to wing defence. We've hardly seen her there. I thought she really denied the Jamaicans that pace through court, so I like that injection. Karen Berger, was strong down the defence end. Interesting that she didn't start today's game. Ekanasio and Wilson are building that combination. In the mid-court, Maddie Gordon got the start today. She injected a bit of energy in the middle. But again, it was just, again, that attacking and those connections. Be good when Grace Wicke comes back.
I agree, because I think we did get enough ball for the Silver Ferns on defence. Did we like the experiment of Kelly Drury at wing defence?
Oh, yes, now that one. I thought she was okay when she was actually on at wing defence. She didn't get a lot of ball. I thought she suffocated the space a little bit, but I think her favourite position is goalkeep, and she is better at that. So I think Knowles had to try it out. She, especially up against Jamaica, Janelle Fowler, she's so tall, so to get those arms up was a big thing. But I think across, all teams, we saw the substitutions. We saw, 8 games of netball in 10 days. It's intense, it's torrid. So good to see that, lots of players are getting time out on court, because back in the day at World Cups, it was used to just be the starting 7 and maybe a couple of more. So, we're a young Silver Fern side. I think this is the second youngest Silver Fern side to go to World Cup since 1999. So, you look at Grace Wicke, she wasn't here for this one. She'll be 25 when we hit the next one in Sydney. Tiana Matuaro, she'll be just a year older than that, 26. So I think we've got good depth coming through. Will Nolene Taurua be there at the end of the year and re-sign? Who knows? She's got the Constellation Cup. She's got the Tiny Jamison. Will getting 4th, our worst ever showing at a World Cup, be enough for her to go, well, I've got a gold medal in Liverpool. I've done all that I can. It's now somebody else's turn to change the tide. So, yeah, it'll be interesting times, actually, as we head into 2024.
Yeah, that's right. And I also want to say having the replacement players really did come in handy, I think, for across all the teams. But for us, yeah, we've had a great time. Even though the Silver Ferns didn't come away world champions, I think we've really enjoyed our time in Cape Town.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks of big days, lots of netball. I don't think I've watched so much netball in my whole life. I'm going back. I don't want to talk netball. I don't want to see a netballer for a long time, but it's been a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, great to hear their thoughts from on the ground over in Cape Town. That is all we've got time for here on Inside Netball. Thank you so much to Adine Wilson and Anna Harrison for joining me. Did you enjoy that, Scar, your first Inside Netball experience?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty relaxed. Can't go to sleep now.
Oh, she loves analysing.
You do.
She wants to be back.
You got to nerd out. Yeah, it's great. Well, great to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Plenty more netball coming your way this year. We've got the Tiny Jamison Cup and the Constellation Cup all coming your way live on Sky Sport. But for now, we'll see you later.